Welcome back. So on this part of the tutorial, what we're going to do is work with the second image, which you can kind of see here. I have provided it in Notebowl as well. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to physically take this image with my mouse, and I'm going to bring it down to the dock and drag it on top of the Photoshop icon. And you can kind of see when I do that, it actually, if I don't hold it forever and let go, it will open up with Photoshop. In a lot of cases, especially with a mouse, the trackpad's really hard. You can just drag the image on top of the Photoshop icon, and that tells the Mac to open up the image with that application. That works for all applications, by the way. So let's get started. Before we start, we know we want to resize this image so it's a little bit smaller and the correct size, just so that we have what we are supposed to have. What we did in the past was to go to the crop tool, right? But I know that I'm going to move back to the move tool. I know that this image is square because I took it with my camera on the square setting. So another way you can change the number of pixels in an image, and we've done this before, is go to image, image size. Make sure that resampling is on and automatic is selected. And make sure that your pixels, you don't have percent, but you have pixels selected. And you can actually just type 1,000 into this area. Because it's square and the constraint proportions are on, the other one should also be 1,000 because this was a square image. Now, if it wasn't a square image, that's where you want to use a crop tool, because it will not only allow you to crop something square, but it'll also make it the right size. And since we're not taking anything off this image, what I'm really doing just really quickly is changing the number of pixels in this image and downsampling. And this downsampling is done in different ways, but the automatic is going to give you the best quality. So I'm going to hit OK. And it takes a second, and there it is, and you know that this image has 1,000 by 1,000 pixels. Command 0 to bring it in, to bring it full screen. Remember, Command minus, Command plus allow you to zoom, and then Command 0 brings it full screen. These are keyboard shortcuts you should know. Let's start by double-clicking the background layer. Double-click it, 1, 2, and we'll call this ORIG. And this is our original image, right, because we're going to not modify this. So in this tutorial, what I'm going to do is go over filters, making this look even more artsy than it actually is. So before I start, I don't want to mess up my original, so I'm going to Command J if it's selected to jump the original. And I'm going to put the word cutout as the layer, and I'm selecting this layer. So some of the filters that are available are up here in the filter menu, and what we're going to be working with is the filter gallery mostly. We're not going to be working with any of these, although you are more than welcome to look at some of these, especially like blur we'll be using in the future, maybe noise, sharpen, stylize. We'll give you some different looks, but the filter gallery is pretty much where we're going to stick with for the afternoon for this class. So we're just going to go to filter gallery, and you notice that if I've got that selected, right away we're on the cutout tool, and you'll click around here and you can see that you get a bunch of different filters that are available in Photoshop. You can just kind of click, 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 see what the effects are instantly. And if you like any of those effects for your images, like this is kind of interesting, you might want to use it. You've got more filters here. So you can see you can open up the brush, accented edge, splatter, distortions, right? Really like that diffuse glow. Sketch, you got the graphic pens. So, and each of these filters, let's go back up to cutout, have some sliders that actually allow you to change things. So if we went to number of levels 2, that means it's really dialing down the number of colors that are in this image. The edge simplicity is going to make things a little bit more detailed or less detailed. If it's down to 10, it's like almost like an abstract piece of art. And then the fidelity is how closely it stays to the image that you see. So these sliders are going to give you a bunch of different things. You can see if I bring up the number of levels to something like 7 and the edge fidelity down, we get these abstracted elements here. Let's go ahead and dial in the following settings. Let's say 7, 5, and 3, and we're going to hit OK. And at this point you see the before, and then after, and you can see that it's removed a lot of the colors. It's made things a little bit more like as if it were a piece of art. Of course, there's a lot of jaggedy stuff. That's just the nature of this filter. All right, let's turn off this cutout. Go back to original, Command J to jump, and let's call this sketch, S-K-E-T-C-H. And we'll go back to our filter gallery. Now, I want you to be aware, do not select this filter gallery selection here. If you do that, it'll just repeat the last filter that it did. You want to go down to this one. So just be careful, because you might do that. I do that all the time. Let's open up our sketch, and we're going to go to the graphic pen. And we're going to make our stroke lengths like 13, so that makes each of these little lines a little bit longer. I'm going to adjust the dark balance so that it's nice and dark, maybe like 90, maybe 100. That looks good. And then I can change the stroke direction so that it looks like it was hand done. I kind of like the vertical, and I do like the horizontal, so I'm going to go back to vertical. Yeah, that looks pretty cool. And I'm going to hit OK. So again, that's like another way. So we had the original cutout here, and then we have now this sketch look. Okay, let's turn that off. Go back to original, Command J, and this time we're going to call it Note, and you'll see why in a second. And then we're going to go up to Filter. We're not going to pick this one. We're going to go down here, and we're going to go to our let's see, where is it? Note paper. Now, by default, the graininess should be turned on and the relief should be turned on. I like turning both the graininess and the relief all the way down. This gives you the ability to create something that's pretty much a black and white image, but it gives you a lot of it gives you this slider that gives you, it's kind of like you can kind of see where you're going with this. So I'm going to use maybe the image balance right. I don't know. None of this is really great, but let's just say somewhere around 29 or 28. And we're going to hit OK. Now, at this point, you're like, this is pretty useless, not even black and white. Remember, you can actually modify any of these cutout, sketch, note, all these layers. You can go back and use what you've learned under image adjustment and then brightness contrast. You could actually make this much darker by dragging down the brightness and increasing the contrast. And you could do this multiple times. So let's see, adjustment, brightness, contrast. Bring down the brightness, increase the contrast. And at this point, what we have after that is a nice black and white representation of what we were trying to get at. Now, this is not the best picture for that, but for some pictures, this might be what you want, is to create something that's a high relief black and white that doesn't have the colors from like cutout, for instance. Okay, so that was just to show you that once you create a layer, you can then use the image adjustments to really pop it if you want. Okay, I'll turn that one off. Go to original, Command J. And then this is the last filter we're going to learn for today. It's a new filter, so if you don't have, if you're in the Mulberry Lab or you don't have Photoshop 2021, you won't find this, which is no big deal, but just want to bring this up. So NURAL is the name of this layer. And what we're going to do is go to Filter, and then if you have the right version, again, the newest version of Photoshop, you'll see Neural Filters. Now, take a look at what this does. It'll open up this weird new dialog with a face here. And yes, you can do skin smoothing. You'll notice that you'll have, both of these will have a little cloud icon. Obviously, I've used style already, so I'm going to click on the style transfer tab and turn it on after I've downloaded it, which I already have. And you'll see right away that you get these this crazy looking thing, and that's because what this is doing, this Photoshop thing is doing, is it's actually taking this image and somehow trying to map it to this image, and it's doing that in the cloud. So this sometimes takes a while. So if you switch to a different image, you'll notice it takes a moment or two before it actually turns it into what it thinks of as a combination of this plus your image. And it's doing this through artificial intelligence in the cloud, which is why it's taking so long. Now, you can click around on the 4 objects here, and you can see there's different things that you can do. You can actually select preserve color, and what that will do is it'll take the colors from your image, but it'll put the rest of the style from this image, so you can turn that on and off. And you can drag the style strength back a little bit so you can see your image more, and then it's kind of a nice blend, for instance. And then finally, you can say show more and scroll down, and you can see all these different images that they have in Photoshop. Now, these images are all like, there'll probably be different ones in the future. This is a new filter for Photoshop 2021. So if you see anything you like and you want to try it with your images, please go for it. Now, here's the cool part. It will give you a new layer by default. So we already did this, right? Output to new layer. So what we're going to do is just put output to current layer because we did this already. But by default, Photoshop assumes that you want to like make a new layer and you didn't have this class. So it's it's kind of prompting you. If you want to see the original, by the way, there's this little button here and you can turn this on and off to toggle like how this is looking compared to the original. So this might help with some of your images, making them more interesting. I'm going to go back up to, I'm going to turn off the show more and go back to show less. Go back to the original that I had here and bring up the strength a little bit more, maybe 50%, and hit OK. And at this point, we've got that image, the neural image. So you should have 1, 2, 3, 4 new layers on top of original. And what I'd like you to do at this point is go to File, Save As, and because I want you to turn in the actual layers for this thing, I want you to name this your email name and then number 2, because this is assignment number 2, and please make sure it's Photoshop, because otherwise if it's JPEG it will actually throw all those layers away that you're actually going to get graded on. Go ahead and hit save and hit OK, and I have it on my desktop, as you can see, and so this is what you will be turning into Noteball. Hope that helps, and I hope you're able to use these 2 videos to make your images look a little bit more interesting. Okay, thanks.